Hi, and welcome to the weekly college football pick'em show here at thegruelingtruth.net, brought to you by Gridiron Mo, an interactive football game app which pits you against other football fans across the country in predicting the next play within a live NFL game. Not available for college football yet, someday soon. Think you're smarter than the average fan? Test for yourself at Gridiron Mo through this website, thegruelingtruth.net, or gridironmo.com. My name is Oz Davis. I'll be the host for this discussion on college football. And we've got a few co-hosts this week. Let's start up again. Joining us again is Bill Searcy. Strap yourselves in because his introduction's a long one. He's formerly of the University of Alabama Crimson Tide, including the national champion teams under Bear Bryant of 1978 and 1979. He was also with the Houston Gamblers of the USFL and the San Diego Chargers of the NFL, and is the author of High Tide, A Story of Football, Freefall, and Forgiveness. Welcome back to the show, Bill.
Hey, thank you, man. It's great to be back with you guys.
Yeah, it was good to have you last week. I'm sure it'll be great to have you this week. Also aboard tonight, for a much shorter introduction, is my fellow grueling truther, Brian Schmidt. Brian, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, doing good. Looking forward to the bowl season.
Okay, all right. And finally, last but not least, the man about whom not enough good things may be said, the fearless leader of thegruelingtruth.net, Mike Goodpaster. Mike, how are you?
All right. How you doing, Oz?
Okay, that wasn't too overdone this week? That was...
I don't know. I mean, it's you, so you never know what to expect. I mean, me and Brian are always happy anytime you talk if it's less than 15 minutes. So.
Well, yeah, I do have some long-winded ones. I do tonight. Hey, man, you make me the host, I will host. I will host the hell out of this show. In any case, okay, so... For those of you who may have listened to the show before, we're changing up the format a little bit this week on the College Football Pick'em show here. But we've got Bill Searcy on this show. Bill isn't enough of a, college football geek to care about, like the awesome University of New Mexico Lobos or anything like that. So we're not going to subject him to actually picking these games tonight. Instead, though, Mr. Bill Searcy did play under Bear Bryant. So this is a heck of an opportunity to talk a little University of Alabama football and to talk about the man who is perhaps the most associated with college football, maybe anyone. I've been told, Bill, from Mike, that you have a nice story about a team vote regarding an actual bowl appearance. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, let me tell you, this story will explain to you why my attitude toward bowls is what it is today, okay?
Okay.
In 1980, we had won the national championship 78, 79, obviously trying to three-peat in 80, and ended up losing two games in 80. We lost to Mississippi State 6-3, and we lost to Notre Dame 7-0. That was the two games we lost. And so because of that era and the attitude that we were taught to have and the attitude that we did have, we were invited to the Cotton Bowl to play the Southwest Conference champion Baylor. But Coach Bryant came into the team meeting to let us know, number one, that we had been invited, but then to also tell us that first that he did not feel like that there was any real reason to go because we weren't playing for any sort of championship, and kind of felt like it might just be kind of a waste of time for us to go. And so before he walked out of the room, he said that he would leave it up to the seniors to vote and decide if we were going to go to the Cotton Bowl and accept the invitation to the Cotton Bowl, which obviously we did accept it as seniors in 1980 because we wanted to go play in the Cotton Bowl. But that's kind of, that was the mentality. I mean, that was from the first day you ever got there to the last day you left, you really expected no less, because anything less than the championship was kind of a disappointment, so.
It's almost like those New York Yankees of the 1950s, where you're planning to spend your World Series money in the preseason.
Yeah.
Okay, so I assume the vote was unanimous. I mean, I don't really want
to
talk about locker room stuff here, but So how,
it was. But I mean,
okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. There was actually discussion. I mean, it wasn't just like everybody throws their hands up. And I mean, there was discussion as to, do we want to go? Should we go? Are we going to be good representatives for us to go? Blah, blah, blah. And, but of course, enough of us wanted to go. And in the end, I'm sure it was unanimous for us to go and spend a week in Dallas, experience the Cotton Bowl, because my group had not been to the Cotton Bowl because we had been going to the Sugar Bowl for several years in a row. So we all knew New Orleans really way too well, and so Dallas was a good chance for us to go and to play a champion, the Southwest Conference champion, and still prove that we felt like we were one of the better teams in the country, even though we did have 2 losses, and so it turned out to be a great game and a great trip, and we won handily, but that's just kind of the attitude that was at Alabama in those years. And when I see teams now going, and you didn't ask me this, but I'll say it anyway. When I see teams going to bowl games now that are 6-6 or 5-7, or I can't wrap my head around it. So.
We'll talk about them later. So you don't have to. For that. You don't have to wrap your head around it. Don't even pay attention. Don't pay attention.
Good.
Yeah, and I would think, Bill, I mean, the one thing people don't realize, no conference championship games back then. So you'd be done early November. Say your final game is against, Auburn. So
yeah,
your final game
always Auburn.
Yeah, about middle of November, so somewhere around there. So you had like a whole month before you played the game. I mean, what was that like? Was there? I mean, I've heard of some teams even went to 2-a-days for the first week while they lead up to that. What was practice like? How did Bear Bryant prepare his team with that much time?
Yeah, well, we would be allowed to go home for a short period of time prior to Christmas because we wouldn't be home at Christmas, and then come back. And back in those days, Tuscaloosa was a really small town, and I mean the student population was about half of what it is now, and the city population was very, very small. So when school was out for the holidays, it was kind of like you were in an isolated training camp anyway, and wasn't a whole lot to do. So we were able to concentrate and focus on football, which is what we did. And even in that last year when we weren't playing for the championship, it was still a workmanlike attitude. It wasn't fun and games. So it was a lot of full pads practices. It was a lot of hard work. We may even go back to doing, some fundamental things in the very beginning of the bowl practice. And we practiced in pads right up to literally right up to the day we were flying out to wherever we were going. And so we didn't ease up until a few days before the actual game to when we were got to whatever city we were playing in.
All right, Brian?
Yeah.
Well, you got any questions?
I was just listening.
Well, as everybody can tell, we didn't plan this out real well. But the thing to me that I really remember from my youth, I actually really liked Penn State back in the 70s. Sorry, Bill, but
yeah,
79 Sugar Bowl. I know you wouldn't have been on the field during it, but probably the most iconic moment of college football in the 70s, and it showed Bear Bryant's team because they usually take on the same mentality as your coach. But, I mean, the thing that stood out to me was that first down and goal at the 1 Penn State had, national championship on the line. Penn State gets stopped 4 times, gets nothing. I think Mike Gooman was their main running back who ended up playing for Oz's Rams for a while. What was it like on the sideline watching that?
It was – let me back up for 1 second. I want to add something before I answer that question for you. Okay. These days you hear a lot about coaches that have, like Coach Saban now has a long time to prepare. And so you really never know what that team's going to come out and do. Well, with us in those days, we were going to do what we always did. And Coach Bryant's attitude was, look, we're going to do what we always did. We're going to run the ball all the time on offense, and we're going to try to hammer you on defense. And, we're not changing anything. So you saw the same defenses that we ran all year long. You saw the same offensive plays that we ran all year long. And so when we got on the goal line, when they got on the goal line, and our guys stopped them in that famous goal line stand, it was, you know, I don't know how you put it into words, but I mean, obviously it was pandemonium because we knew then that we were going to win the game and be the national champions again. And when the game was over and the crowd came down onto the field, I've never, like, I don't know how many big crowds like that you've been in where they just surround you. But the fans just came out of the stands, and we were just crazy. You know, the whole place was crazy for quite some time. So, and the guys that stopped them, Barrett Krause and Rich Wingo, and little known fact, a guy named Mike Clements was in that picture you've always seen. There's a defensive back under that pile with holding on to Gooman's ankles that actually got him slowed down there. And when they stoned him there on the goal line, I mean, it's probably the most famous play in Alabama history, if not one of the most famous in college history, I guess.
Yeah, it's probably maybe the most famous play in Penn State history, too, even though they lost the game.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately for them, they had a great team, too. And I don't know if you remember, they had Bruce Clark was the defensive tackle, and Matt Millen was also on that defense. So, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of big names for Penn State, but I mean, Penn State had a
you guys and them were two, I think, of the best defensive teams in the history of college football playing against each other. I think that game was nothing till almost the end of the first half when I think you guys went up 7-0.
Yeah. So it was old school, you know, it was old school football, and as they used to say, you know, jaw to jaw and cheek to cheek and all that. You know, we were going to run the ball, and you were just going to have to. You were just going to have to stop us, or we were just going to do what we did.
All right, Oz.
I have a question for you, because it seems to me today that a lot of the younger fans especially don't care too much about history of the game, whether that be football, baseball, basketball, whatever. But my question to you is, when you join an Alabama program like that, do you have the weight of history there? I mean, you played for Bear, so it's kind of tough to say for you. But would you say for a guy playing for a lesser coach, but at University of Alabama, still feels that weight of history? Is that still there?
You know, I think what's happened, Oz, is that Coach Saban has created his own legacy in history.
Yes.
And that when I went, not being from Alabama, I didn't grow up in Alabama, so not being from here, I didn't really know. I didn't understand what Coach Bryant really meant to football and to Alabama football until I got here. So, I mean, I knew he was a great coach and that I'd probably be on the national championship team, but that was about all I knew. But these kids today, I mean, when you say Bear Bryant, really you get that look like who? I don't think Coach Bryant's legacy and history mean a whole lot to him, but I do think Coach Saban has created his own, aura around himself, and so that is important to him. And I'll say this: I think Coach Saban does a good job in trying to teach his guys of the history that they are trying to continue on, and how important it is of the tradition, and that they act a certain way and talk a certain way and definitely play a certain way, and what's expected out of an Alabama football player. So I think Coach Saban, I think there was a lull. I think there was a time when Alabama coaches weren't teaching that tradition and didn't have as much respect for it as I think there should be. But I do think Coach Saban brought that back when he came. And as a matter of fact, he's even taken the houndstooth pattern of Coach Bryant's hat and turned that thing into a marketing $1 billion deal. Because everything in Alabama's houndstooth now, so.
Right. Ah, good call.
I think we need to get Oz a houndstooth cap. I think he would look good in a houndstooth hat.
Yeah.
I can do it.
I can do it. Get him a pipe. You know? It's hard to tell if Oz will be in that pipe, but.
Yeah, hey, look, if you're going to wear a houndstooth hat and look like Coach Bryant, you better have a Chesterfield in your hand, because that's what he's supposed to.
There you go. Yes, but I do.
I'll tell you what. If you hand roll those yourself, Oz can do that.
I'm not going any further with that.
He lives in California. It's all right. It's legal there.
There you go.
I'll do the Chesterfield, but I'm rolling my own.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the current coaching situation, breaking away a bit from history and moving on to the present. There's a bit of a question, I think, lately about Mr. Kiffin, the offensive coordinator there, who just took a job at Florida Atlantic International Eastern Europe University, something like this. And but I'm wondering, and there's mixed reviews about how much of the success of this team is from his, job as OC. What's your opinion?
I think that Kiffin is an offensive savant. I do. I think he's an offensive genius. However, I think that that the relationship between he and Coach Saban had kind of run its course, and that probably was a mutual thing that they both felt like there was time for both to move on. I also think that if you think that Kiffin did anything without Saban's approval, then you don't know anything about Saban. But I don't think they totally agreed on everything offensively. But look, I'm glad he's staying through the playoffs, however long that is. Yeah. And because of our young quarterback and that relationship he has with him, I think it was important that he stay. But I don't know who, whether it's going to be Sarkisian that's on the staff, that a lot of people seem to think is just going to step into that position when Kiffin leaves, or whoever it is they may hire. Right. But, Coach Saban's never had any problems getting first-class assistants. So, but, I think we're going to miss him. I do think we'll miss him.
Yeah. Yeah, some buzz from ESPN was that, Kiffin was tired of being yelled at by Coach Saban, more or less.
Well, maybe so.
So I can imagine.
Maybe so, but he got paid to get yelled at.
Yeah, it's a realistic assessment.
Saban's not as bad as Brian Kelly, because you heard they're going to have to hire their OC or DC from in-house because nobody outside of the university wants to go there and work for him.
Wow.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consider Brian Kelly's an asshole, but yeah.
You know what? I think I'd like to hear what y'all have to say about this, but I think that when Coach Saban originally hired Kiffin, he knew that it was time for his offense to take a different direction and kind of catch up with some other offenses and being able to, to go fast and run 80 plays a game and that kind of thing. And and he felt like Kiffin was the best person for it at the time, knowing that after 2 or 3 years or whatever, that they would have to split. But he wanted to get that installed into his system, and I think that's why he hired Kiffin in the first place. And,
if you're hiring Kiffin, that he's probably only going to be there for a couple of years anyways.
Yeah, and he's going to leave a trail of destruction in his wake if you give him too much responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's my question with Kiffin, Bill. Can he be a successful head coach, or is he just a good coordinator?
I don't think any of us know that, because he has been under the thumb of Coach Saban the whole time. I mean, Coach Saban didn't even allow him to talk to the press.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bill Belichick on the NFL level. How many of his guys go have success somewhere?
Exactly. So,
everything.
Right. He didn't even let him talk to the press. So, we really don't know if he's actually really has matured and grown up, truthfully.
But chances are, if you're not letting him talk to the press, he's not going to mature and grow up, because he's not going to learn to do that.
But you know what? I can hear Coach Saban saying, well, you know what? Let him mature somewhere else, because I want to win.
But I think Saban gives a shit. So.
Exactly.
So, my opinion. I've had this conversation today about this. Is I think in some ways taking the Florida Atlantic job may have been the best job for him to take right now, because, obviously Alabama did not want him going to LSU as a coordinator, that kind of thing. But by taking a Florida Atlantic job, it's going to allow him, if he has matured, it's going to allow him to learn how to be a good head coach, because obviously when he was at USC and Tennessee, he was not a good head coach. It's going to allow him to, hopefully for him, take some of the things that he learned and seen us say. The bottom line is this: smart coaches, smart people in life, they emulate success. So obviously there's going to be a lot of things that he should take from his time at Alabama that he should take with him wherever he goes, and hopefully this will help him to be successful. Because
let's face it, at Florida Atlantic, if he throws up 1-8-3, all those big schools are going to be coming after him anyways, probably.
Exactly. Yep. He goes 8-3, he goes to a bowl game. Everybody's going to go, oh, hey, here's this talented coach that's obviously has figured things out. Here we go. But it allows him to, I think, maybe take that next step for his coaching career because, had he gone to LSU as a coordinator, as an example, I don't know if that would have helped him because, there's just comes a time when you just got to be a head coach. You've got to make that next step. And even though he's taken, obviously he's taken a pay cut, sometimes you got to take a pay cut in order to.
But he's kind of been moving down the career ladder steadily. I mean, okay.
No, the coordinator at Alabama is just as big as a head coach at a smaller Division I school.
Right, but look.
However,
it's
not a head coaching position. A and B. Everything he did at Alabama was controlled by Saban. You're not going to get any better if you're in a position where you are controlled. There just comes a point when you have to take a step down to hopefully in 2 to 3 years take 3 steps up, and I think that's what's happening here now.
His whole career has been stepping down.
Yeah, his reputation precedes him right now, which is his problem.
Right. He was given the Raiders job way too early. He was way too young for that job. Okay, no problem. But look, Tennessee, USC, not so good, right? Step down to be offensive coordinator in maybe the number 1 program in the country. Okay, great.
He said maybe, Bill.
Well, Washington.
It's always naysayers, man.
Washington is coming. Yeah, haters gonna hate.
Oh, he threw it at Washington is coming, Bill.
I heard him. Don't worry, I heard him.
We'll address that in a couple weeks.
And now he's down to one of these newfangled programs. I mean, his whole career has been stepping down. He's got to step up. He better go 9-2 with this team within 2 years.
His career path has definitely been backwards.
Yeah, absolutely,
no doubt. But I think his attitude and ego would not allow him to be an assistant for another year anywhere. And I think he realizes that he needed to be a head coach somewhere starting now in order for him to have that opportunity that he's still looking for to get back into a higher level as a head coach. And so, I know it wasn't the job he would have selected, but I think he will, as much as possible, surround himself with good coaches, because if nothing else, I hope he learned that from Saban, to surround yourself with great coaches. And hopefully he'll have learned a lot of things from Saban and take them there and, and be a great head coach. Still, jury's still out.
All right, so we'll transition, and I think that we need to recap last week's Pick'em show and who won.
Okay. All right. Are we gonna say goodbye to our host, or are we gonna?
No, he can still hang out with us. Then we'll talk about the Heisman Trophy, which he hates, and I do too, and we'll explain why we hate it.
Wow.
And I just wanted to bring up the fact that the Army-Navy game, Army won. There.
Right, see, there you go. See, you're subverting like my hosting of this show. I have this on the agenda. Okay, let's all wish
get over it, Buttercup. You'll be fine.
Congratulations to Mike, who was probably one of 10% of non-enlisted Army men who picked Army to win this game. Yay! He prevented the 1-0 from Brian.
Hoorah!
Yeah. Fantastic job. Okay, so the only undefeated Pick'em of last week was Mike Goodpaster. That's why he's the leader of the Grueling Truth.
Oh, God, here we go. Get
now,
off your knees.
okay, I'm off. That was it. Okay. So let's go on to the Heisman, because I did have this on the agenda. Okay, ready, Mike? Go. Thoughts on the, projected winner winning?
I think Deshaun Watson should have won it, even though I projected Lamar Jackson too. He got a big lead early, but I think Watson did more. And he got his team in the Final Four, and he does everything for that team. They have no defense. I think it should have been Watson, but I mean, the Heisman I could really care less, because we all know that hardly ever is the best player in the country selected. If they were, J.J. Watt would have won it at Wisconsin a few years back. To me, it's just who puts up the best stats as a quarterback or a running back.
Yes. I would ask you, Brian, do you hate the Heisman too?
I've just never been a fan. No, it just there's been so many years where really, honestly, and this year a great example. I mean, so many of the votes were already in, and I mean, we hadn't even got done playing, and then Jackson goes out and he lays an egg. I just never been a fan of it. I don't think I mean, how many Heisman Trophy winners have gone on to have successful NFL careers?
Well, and this is my problem. Don't let anybody vote. Johnny Manziel had a vote.
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel watches college football on a Saturday afternoon.
Manziel had a vote. Did they make him do a breathalyzer? Did they make him breathe into a pipe before they
Well, the bad thing is I saw a picture on social media where he's sitting on Lamar Jackson's bed. Hopefully he's not giving Lamar NFL advice.
Hopefully he's not giving him anything.
It's probably like, dude, don't go out if you could possibly be picked by the Cleveland Browns.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. They're going to be the number one pick, dude. Don't.
And I had to, unfortunately, I had to say this to somebody, and I know it sounds kind of mean to say, but my little official thing on their conversation, was, him telling him, Jackson, hey, make sure that your, Coke is pure and your alcohol is cold, because what other conversation can they possibly have? So
don't get drafted by Cleveland. Don't be that
life advice.
Yeah.
But and my question to Bill is this: Bill, have you ever owned a suit similar to Lamar Jackson's?
Hey, I didn't. Hey, based on my conversation with you guys last week, I didn't even know they had voted yet. They've already picked somebody.
Yeah, but he wasn't from Alabama. Hey, I'll tell you what. You may not care about the Heisman, but if somebody from Alabama would have won it, you'd have been ready to talk about it.
Oh, I was excited last year. Yeah, I was, Derrick Henry. But no, I haven't. I've never had a suit like that. Probably couldn't afford one, but which leads to my question: how can he? But that's for another day. And
hey, I don't want to hear you throwing accusations like that. You went to Alabama. The only school in the SEC that hasn't been damn near on the death penalty before is Vanderbilt.
That's true. True. But I thought, I was with you. I thought Deshaun, I thought he should have won also. Because he had a great year last year, and he was the reason his team was where they were last year. He's the reason they're where they are this year. He just, for whatever reason, he's going to be a rich man, but still. And, I'm not so sure that the Heisman hasn't gone the way of all these bowl games I talked about earlier, because there's lots of awards and lots of titles given out these days, and the Heisman I don't think has quite that luster that it used to have. But
how could the Heisman be made better? Like would it be better if a guy like Donnell Pumphrey was getting equal consideration? Would that make it better?
But he's not going to get it because, number one, it's hard for anybody on the West Coast, unless you're playing at USC, who plays a lot of primetime games, to even be in consideration. I mean, it's just like you got a lot of people out there that in the Week 10 even we're saying that the Washington Huskies weren't even a good football team, and everybody that was saying that, 90% of them had never even seen the Washington Huskies play.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know?
What do you? How do you feel about these? Nowadays, you know, the trend obviously is for these underclassmen, you know, to get it, whether it's a freshman or a 18-year-old quarterback or whatever. And I don't know. I kind of feel like you should have to have maybe more than one outstanding season to get it. You know, maybe 2 years in a row. But,
yeah, but even back in the day, Herschel Walker was a freshman when he won it, wasn't he?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
So, I mean,
I'm just
and
saying
I think I think players are physically a lot more mature at the age of 18 or 19 than they used to be.
Oh, sure.
And, I mean, the Heisman's supposed to be whoever the best player that year is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I can see it, though. And, I mean, they've given it to people before based on what they did before. It's just been a while. But,
yeah.
And as Brian said, how many guys go win the Heisman and go do something in the NFL? Hell,
True.
The two-time winner was Archie Griffin, and he was a journeyman player in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know we're getting to the point of the show where Oz wants to pick the New Mexico game. So, Bill, I know being an Alabama fan, you don't bend down and pick New Mexico Lobo games. So
it's not that. I just haven't paid any attention. So there's nothing I could say to add to the conversation.
I got to say that they were not 6-6. They were 8-4. So
hey, well, that's all right. I can live with that. You know, 6-6, 5-7. Yeah.
Yeah. They're playing a team that's 6-6. So.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. In our home venue, in our home state.
Well,
in the New Mexico.
I think we all agree there's way too many bowls. So, and they've got to fill the slots, and the teams do get some money, and the players do get to travel and hopefully have a good time. All that, but it's just so many that people have lost interest, I think.
Well, the big thing there is the NCAA officials get to travel to those places, and they get big-time payoffs, which is why we've only got a 15 playoff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway.
Well, in any case, Bill Searcy, we will get you out of here. All right, guys. Do you do Twitter? Do you do social media, anything like that? You want to plug anything?
Yeah, I do Twitter at Bill Searcy 1. Obviously, my Facebook, I'm on there. I will say this: you can go to Amazon Books and get your copy of High Tide: A Story of Football, Free Fall, and Forgiveness on Amazon. Hey, great Christmas present, $11.99, can't beat it.
Yeah, great book, by the way, and I think that I'm going to have an interview with Bill next week about the book, if you guys want to check that out. And, Bill, you want to come back and pick the higher profile games with us starting next Tuesday?
I promise I will look over the games that you talk about next week before the day of, and that way I can talk about them.
Well, we'll do this. Instead of Oz writing down the games we're going to pick the day before or the day of, we'll have him do it in the next day or two and then send it to us all so we know.
That'll be cool. All
right. Thanks, Bill.
Hey, thank you, guys. Y'all have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
All right, man.
All right, Oz.
Okay.
This
Here
is what you've been waiting for.
Yes, I love this. Where we have a time limit is translated as, Oz wants to talk about the Lobos. Yeah, Oz kind of does want to talk about the Lobos. We're going to get our moment in the sun on the opening day of bowl.
Yeah, as you start this conversation, please remember I'm on NyQuil right now. So
yeah, we got the NFL Pick'em show here in like 40 minutes. So let's go, Oz.
40 minutes. Okay, so I can take up 32.
So you've got like 15 minutes for all these games. Go.
For New Mexico? Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the bowl games. We're going to talk about the first 7 or 8 of these guys. I guess we're not talking about, the Celebration Bowl, in which Grambling is favored by more than 2 touchdowns, 14.
Okay, Brian, who you got in that? I know you've looked that up. This will not count the official count, but I know you do.
Yeah, I'm going Grambling.
Got to go with Grambling.
Huge.
I think Grambling's pretty good offensively, and their quarterback was Player of the Year in the SWAC, so they're a pretty good offense. So I'm going to go Grambling.
All right, I'll go Grambling too. Then we all agreed.
Okay, great. All right, let's talk about the New Mexico Bowl. But before we talk about the New Mexico Bowl, Mike, you have an alternate name for this bowl, don't you?
I do.
You have a suggestion? Oh yeah, you had a suggestion for what we could call this.
I don't remember. That was this morning. I mean, I figured maybe they call it the bowl
or something like let's make a bowl game so that
let's make a bowl game so New Mexico can go to a bowl game.
Right.
They've been in it 4 out of the 5 years it's been there. They built a new stadium just so they could host a bowl game, and they fill up their schedule with a bunch of non-conference powder puffs who that's what they lose to, so they make sure to get the 6 wins so they can play in their bowl game.
It's not really powder puffs. I mean, we did play. We have some decent in-conference game. Boise State.
I'm talking about out-of-conference.
Wyoming.
You make that soft enough, you'll get the 6 wins.
Yeah.
Of course, y'all lost to Rutgers, but
and New Mexico State, which is one of the worst teams in the country, and it really hurts to lose that game. But let's talk about. We're not here to talk about the past, as the man once said. New Mexico gets the 6-6 University of Texas at San Antonio Roadrunners, which is interesting because the Roadrunner is actually the state bird of New Mexico. But that's another story. The folks that are watching this game, which is going off at 2 p.m. Eastern time, so that's just in time for the bars in New Mexico to open at kickoff.
You have to be drinking to watch this game, but go ahead.
Absolutely. Folks in New Mexico and Texas will definitely be watching. They'll be drinking. They'll be watching. However, there is at least one nice feature of this game. New Mexico does have the best running attack in the country, and they run some crazy old-fashioned, full house backfields. For example, they do some crazy stuff. They're doing triple option stuff out there, just wacky stuff. Their key guy is Terrion Gibson. This guy is averaging, his typical game, 11 carries, 101 yards. That's 9.2 yards per carry, and he averages exactly 1 touchdown per game this season. This guy is explosive. And I like the fact that UTSA is about middle of the pack in defending against the run. So I think that, Mr. Gibson and the running game are going to go off, and New Mexico is going to win this game at home.
All righty. Who are you going to, me or Brian? You're the host.
What do you got, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to take New Mexico. The interesting thing about their offense, just to kind of get into a coaching part of this, there was a Division II coach who actually was the designer of their offense. He ran it for several years. He used to be a triple option guy under center, created a shotgun triple option offense, and that's where that offense comes from. And so that's why it's a good offense. I've seen New Mexico play a couple times this year, just bits and pieces, and it's an interesting offense, and it's an offense that really probably fits New Mexico the best for a reason why they can go 8-4, because for them it's a little bit easier to recruit those kind of players, and you also don't have to have a big offensive line because they use a lot of cut blocking, things like that. So interesting offense, and I think that's going to give them an edge in this game because it's, even with a little bit of time, it's still difficult to prepare for when I think Texas San Antonio, they're if I remember right, they're a spread offense, 4 wide, 3 and 4 wide kind of deal. So it's not anywhere close to an offense they run. So I think the edge will be New Mexico, and also it's at home. So New Mexico, I think, is going to win this, and I think it'll be a 38-24 game.
All right. You gave a score, Oz. You didn't give a score.
That'd be cool. Let's see a score. I would like it to be that exciting, but I don't think it will be. I'm going to go with about 28-14, and to New Mexico. And Mike, what do you got on this game?
I would lean towards them too. UTSA is not bad. They lost at Texas A&M 23-10. The thing about New Mexico is, they lose to Rutgers. But they
and
beat
New Mexico
Wyoming,
State.
who's a really good team. They
Yep.
beat Air Force, who's a really good
Yep.
team. And you would think that Air Force, I mean, they don't run the exact same offense, but their triple option is very similar to them. You think Air Force would have an easier time preparing for it, and they still get 42 points. They've had games this year where they've had 3 running backs run for 100 yards. I just think New Mexico is going to have too much firepower, and I don't think UTSA will be able to figure it out. I'll go New Mexico 41, UTSA 17.
Oh, wow! I like that. Okay, let's talk Las Vegas Bowl now. I know Mike is excited about this one. We've got Houston versus San Diego State, maybe the best of this opening lot. Mike, tell us about this game. What are you looking for?
I think it's one of the top 10 bowl games overall. You got Donnell Pumphrey from San Diego State. Houston lost their head coach, Tom Herman, which tends to mean teams are not going to play as well as they normally do. Perfect example of that was when Brian Kelly was a little bitch and left UC about a month before the Sugar Bowl, and they fell apart. But Houston's got Greg Ward at quarterback. They beat Louisville. They beat Oklahoma. Same thing. They lost to Memphis, I think, the last game of the season. San Diego State's won 6 straight. They're 7th in the country in rushing. They got Donnell Pumphrey. And the thing that really gets me here is this. San Diego State is 11th in the country against the run. So I think they can take the run away. They can force Ward to beat him. Ward is good enough to beat him, but he's also a guy that with no run game in their losses has thrown a few interceptions he probably shouldn't have. And I think on top of that, I think the game's just going to mean more to San Diego State. So I'm going to take the Aztecs 27-23.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned the coaching thing, because I wanted to bring up a couple of things here. Now, you talked about the San Diego rushing defense. You know, Houston's number 3 against the run. So that clash against Pumphrey should be really nice. And what about this?
And hold on a second, though, Oz. If you look at it, the teams that beat Louisville and Oklahoma are throwing teams. Okay. Now, they haven't really played through their schedule a team that really runs the ball like San Diego State. And the conference they're in, games are usually high scoring. It's like probably a smaller version of the Big 12 where you get a lot of games with a lot of points. And this is the thing.
Didn't Houston play Navy?
Yeah, they lost to Navy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to. The best running team they faced was Navy, and Navy scored like 44, 45 points on them.
Yeah.
So I think that number's skewed by how many teams they play that just throw the ball 40 or 50 times a game.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is just a hard stat that I'm using here. Yeah, good point. This is why I love the bowl game, by the way. This is why I love the bowl games, is because you can get these tests of your team that you haven't seen all year. You finally get to see a running team like SDSU, Houston does. But what about this, too? And I wanted to throw this out. Maybe Brian can handle this one. You talk about the coaching change, but they're going to the defensive coordinator, Todd Orlando, for this game. And they want to be defensively minded against SDSU, which has the possibility of going off. Will it work? Brian?
I think this is going to be a great game. I've gone back and forth all day thinking about this game. You know, I guess my understanding is maybe I read it wrong, but didn't Houston hire their offensive coordinator as the head coach?
Yes, but for this game, the defensive coordinator will be the acting head coach.
Okay, that's kind of...
As I understand it, that's what's happening. Yeah, very weird.
The one thing I guess, because I didn't see that, I saw was that they had named the OC the head coach. I guess the thing with this is the one thing that Houston has going for it, I guess, is you've got everybody. The coordinators are still there. They've named the coordinator the head coach, and the other one, I guess, interim for one game. You know, we're going to give this to you as a thank you. I have no idea why they're doing that.
But
weird too. That, you know, and if they're a talented offense, my feeling on this, the more I've thought about it, is I want, as I said, I've gone back and forth. I want to pick Houston. I just think that the stability that San Diego State has, the rushing attack that they have, could create a problem where this is going to be. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it could go either way, but I look at it as a 38-35 San Diego State, but I won't be surprised if it was 38-35 Houston.
Well, very nice pick, because San Diego State is averaging right around 35 points and Houston is averaging right around 38 points. In fact, you stole my thunder. That's what I was going to go with that one. Houston's a 3-point favorite, so I think this 38-35 score is very vogue. I won't be that boring. I'll go like 35-31 Houston, let's say, just to be
because that's such a big difference between that and 38-35.
Well, a little bit different. A little bit. On The Price is Right, where the one guy goes like $1 less than the person that just bet.
Well, I'm going to pick the score at 1-0 then.
So you can do that.
That way, if they score under 30, I win.
Yeah, there you go. Good gamble. Good gamble. I don't know what it's good for, but you'll win this round. Next up is the Camellia Bowl. Appalachian State versus Toledo. Wow. I actually did catch Toledo a little bit this year, but not much, I think, for about half a game. Let's see. Brian, are you ready to talk this one? What do you got on this one?
Yeah, you got App State. They're a new D1 school by about 3 years, but I mean there was a time when they owned Division I AA, now FCS. They owned it to the point of in 2007 in the opening game beating Michigan in Michigan. So it's a storied program. They've slowly made the move up Division I. They've had some success. Toledo, is outstanding offensively. They've been outstanding. They're a good team. I think between the two, I think Toledo's probably more of a complete team at this point. I'm going to say 27-20 Toledo.
Okay. All right, Mike, how do you like this game?
I like Appalachian State. I think they got one of the best defenses in the country. Toledo's fourth in total offense, 530 yards a game. Their only losses were to BYU by 2, Ohio by 5, and then Western Michigan blew them out. App State also almost beat Tennessee at Tennessee. Plus, I just think App State's a hotter team. They've won 8 of the last 9. They won this bowl game last year, so they've been there before. They beat Ohio. So I'm going to go App State 24, Toledo 20.
Okay. The book has this at just 1 point, has Toledo as a 1-point favorite. In my estimation, again, hate to be boring, could go either way. One other mention, Appalachian State is 14th in yards rushing.
Everything can go either way, correct?
Sorry?
Everything could go either way, right?
Yeah.
But you always say, it's like your sex life. They could go either way. Go ahead, pick the game.
Well, it could. It could go either way.
Oh, okay. Good.
And what am I discussing here? The one other statistic that could be mentioned is that Appalachian State is also 14th statistically in running yards per game. So that's something else to think about here. I think Appalachian State's best bet is probably to slow the game down, but I don't think it's going to work. I'll go with Toledo. I'll take Toledo minus the point. So let's put that at about 23-17. Let's say. Could be a grinded-out game. All right, the Cure Bowl. What is the Cure Bowl?
I don't know. Did they name that after the old rock band, Schmidt?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Robert Smith and those guys are going to come out at halftime, right?
I hope not, because the Cure sucked, but you obviously like them being liberal from California that you are.
No, don't get me started, man. I was never into the dark side or goth bands. That was never a favorite of mine, the alt-rock crowd. In any case, the actual Robert Smith Cure Bowl will be Arkansas State against University of Central Florida. Now, Central Florida is a 6-point favorite, and they're getting a lot of hype as the feel-good story. These guys were 0-12 in 2015, and now they're 6-6, which, as we know, is good enough to make a bowl game. What do you think, Mike? Are you liking Central Florida here?
I like Arkansas State. I like Arkansas State to win the game outright. Arkansas State, defensively, I think they're fourth in the nation in tackles for loss of yards. They were 7-1 to end the season, and this is their sixth straight bowl appearance, so they've been good for a while. I'll say Arkansas State 27, Central Florida 10.
Okay. I am feeling even more confident about Arkansas State. You know, a big one for me going into these bowl games is the hot streak. These guys are 7-1 since switching quarterbacks. I like Arkansas State by a lot. I think they're getting hot at the exact right time to win a bowl game. So put this at about 35-9. We're gonna have a blowout here. Brian, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Arkansas State. I don't know that it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be close until the fourth quarter, but I think a 30-17 kind of deal. But I haven't seen Arkansas State a little bit. That's a good football team. I just in bowl games like this, I always kind of look at, okay, you know, who. There's a lot of factors, but who may be feeling a little bit disrespected by the attention somebody's getting, and I think Arkansas State's going to be a little offended by them being a 6.5-point favorite. They're the feel-good story, and you know, a team like Arkansas State, you know, winning this, and this is where, you know, you can go back and forth on these bowl games. I agree there are too many bowls. However, these bowl games mean something to Arkansas State. You know, a win in this, a lot, and I've had coaches tell me this. I mean, it helps with recruiting. I mean, you know, Arkansas State. I mean, they're not going into, you know, they're not going into Ohio or anything else like that. But these kind of games gets them into getting the second-tier talent in the state of Texas. It allows them that opportunity. To where they're able to get that two and you know, maybe 2-star kid, you know, that has the potential, and maybe get a 3-star kid here and there. So, you know, it's important to them, and they're going to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. So I think Arkansas is going to win this. I think it'll be a little bit closer than what you guys think, but I think in the end Arkansas State will pull away in the fourth quarter.
I think you can agree, Brian, that it's not like there's an overwhelmingly large amount of bowl games, but there are slightly too many. If you are proposing hosting a bowl game with a 6-6 team against a 6-6 team, you lose your license for that year. You don't get to do it. Look, Arkansas State versus New Mexico eliminates 3 other teams that are 6-6 from this bowl competition. There you go.
I think
What's wrong with that?
Got rid of maybe. You know, I think when I looked, I thought, boy, you know, if you were maybe just 3 or 4 bowl games less,
right? That's all you need to do.
I think it's a better situation than what it is right now. It's hard for the average fan to turn on the TV and want to watch football. Oh, here we go, Arkansas State. 6-6. Oh, this will be fun. So that's a lot of it. But, you know, for me, you know, there are those group people. For me, I mean, if I got the TV on, I'm probably going to watch it, you know, provided there's not, you know, a movie on or an evangelist on giving a good sermon. I'll probably go watch it. So. Good.
But it's like,
the internet's out, and you can't get any porn on the computer.
But it's like you said, the real
that was
value,
Oz, though. Not you, Brian. So.
but like you said, Brian, the real value is in player pride and in recruitment purposes, right?
Right.
So
and I know this. I mean, I've had over the last couple of years. We, you know, in a professional indoor setting, I mean, we've signed players that have gone to these schools where they've been 6-6, 7-5, and the one thing that these kids will have with pride is the gifts they get from the bowl game. I mean, you know, the T-shirts, the bags, you know, everything. So,
right.
it means something to them. It's just for, like I said, I think you could cut out 3, maybe 4 bowl games, and I think you're at a good number. Still doesn't give me my 16-team playoff, but that's a whole other subject.
Oh, yeah, here we go. You're another one stumping for Mike's plan, huh? All right.
No, I just think that it should be 64 teams and no bowl games.
Wow, jeez.
I'm not ready to go 64. No,
it's only 6 weeks, Brian. We end the regular season start in November. You're playing.
I know. You know what? I'm okay with
December Madness. December Madness.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
Wow. You are mad, my friend. You are mad, my friend. All right, let's move on.
That's all right.
The New Orleans Bowl, which is not only being played in a great city, we've got a couple of great team names here in this one. The Louisiana Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns, always a good one, versus the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles. Ooh, nice game. They're actually expecting a capacity crowd in the Superdome for this one, which is good, I guess. Southern Mississippi is one of these 6-6 teams, but Nick Mullins, I'm kind of interested in seeing this guy. I haven't seen this guy this season. This guy's thrown for 472 yards a game. These guys have 33 points scored a game. They must be giving up a lot of points on defense. What do you got, Mike, on this game?
Louisiana Lafayette should not be in a bowl game. Southern Miss wins the game 30-20. I mean, Louisiana Lafayette's not very good. They're just not. They shouldn't be in a bowl game. They're 6-6. They barely snuck in. So I'm done talking about that one.
Okay. All right, Brian, are you as concise as Mike?
Yeah. Southern Miss will win this. I think it'll be a 37-21 kind of a deal. Southern Miss is, as you said, they're very good on offense. They've lost some strange games this year. They've also they believe they beat Kentucky early in the year. They've been a very strange team. This was a team that potentially early in the year looked like an 8-4 kind of a team, but there's been some strange losses to go along with some of the wins that they've had. They weren't supposed to beat Kentucky, that kind of thing. So, offensively, they're going to put points up. And then, Louisiana Lafayette, not very good. And at the same time, this, again, when we talk about 6-6 teams, though, this is another one of those for Southern Miss that I believe is somewhat of a young football team. This is a springboard for them the next year to now maybe get to that 8-4, 9-3 kind of a team. So, again, you take it for what it is when it comes to these bowl games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is crap. So good.
In any case, the Miami Beach Bowl, you got to like this one. And
did you pick the Louisiana Lafayette game, Oz?
Oh, I did not. But
are you writing down the picks as we go?
No, I'm not writing this down.
Well, you're going to have to listen to the show again to do that.
Maybe. Yeah, I might do that. I don't know. I get the feeling that I'm just going to feed Mr. Goodpaster's ego, though.
Only a
Southern Mississippi, obviously. I think, again, this is another blowout. You got to assume that there's going to be some blowouts in this first few games here. I'm going to go with 30-7. You say these guys don't even belong in this bowl, but you have them.
Yeah, but they're playing at home in front of a packed crowd. But part of that packed crowd is going to be Southern Miss because it's a big deal that they go to a bowl game too.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the Miami Beach Bowl. Here's a couple of teams that I'm sure are happy to get a vacation in Miami Beach. Central Michigan and Tulsa. Now, Tulsa is an 11.5-point favorite. They were a big deal earlier in the season. They're the prototypical offensive juggernaut, 11th statistically in the country, 41.5 points per game almost. And Central Michigan defense has given up 20-plus points a game this year. So is this a pinball machine, Brian?
Yeah, and it's tilted towards Tulsa. This is one of those I really believe will be a blowout. I think it'll be a 42-17. I think Tulsa will really do some damage. They're a very good offense. This is one of those teams that can flat out score and really score on just about anybody. I mean, even through the year. I mean, there have been very few games where they've not just put up points and put up yards. So I don't think there's really any shot for CMU in this game. I think it's going to be I'll say 41-17.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to copy that exactly. So then I'll save myself time later when I have to write this stuff down. This is one of the bigger mismatches of this entire set of games, don't you think, Mike?
No, but I think it's a mismatch.
Really?
But I don't think it's near the biggest one. But Tulsa's a good team. Central Michigan, they were good enough to beat Oklahoma State on a controversial call through a Hail Mary at the end of the game against Oklahoma State.
Okay.
But I think they've lost 4 of their last 5 games. I think Tulsa wins at 37-20.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So I think
I completely disagree with Brian because he said 41-17.
Fantastic. Let's see. Is this the last one? This is certainly the most interesting one. Yes. The last one we have is the Boca Raton Bowl. Western Kentucky is a 5-point favorite against Memphis. I don't know. Is Memphis a little bit underrated here, Mike?
I think they might be. Riley Ferguson's a good quarterback. I think he threw for over 3,000 yards. But Western Kentucky, you look at them, there are 3 losses. We're 2 to SEC schools. They lost to Bama. They lost to Vandy in overtime. They lost to Louisiana Tech 55-52. Their quarterback with a good game, Mike White, will end up throwing for over 4,000 yards for the year. They got a 1,000-yard rusher, like Anthony Wales. I like Western Kentucky 51, Memphis 42.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. 51-40. Wow. Okay. All right. What do you got here, Brian?
I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go with Memphis. I think had Western Kentucky not lost their head coach, which
damn, I forgot about that, Brian.
Well, sorry, I forgot about Navy not having a quarterback last week. So, but
I'm sticking with Western. No, they still get the better quarterback, and they get a hell of a running back. So, well.
Yeah, I think Western Kentucky. I think is outstanding. I think Memphis is being a little bit based on the point spread. I think they're being a little bit disrespected. I see this. This is going to be a fun game to watch if you like offense. I can see this being a 49-45 Memphis win.
Wow. See, Memphis gives up. Okay, I had to look this up at 2 different sources just to be sure. Memphis gives up 442, almost 443 yards a game. That's a lot. And Western Kentucky is number 5 statistically. I mean, we just heard the quarterback has had an outstanding year statistically. I mean, I don't know. I can't see. I mean, Memphis is not playing defense against anybody. I can't see it. It's got to be Western Kentucky. Say about 30 to about 21.
Oh, that's
maybe.
Way too low.
That's in the first quarter.
Yeah, that's be lucky if that's scored
okay.
halftime.
Western Kentucky is not very good defensively.
No, neither one of them can play defense, and they both can score a lot of points. This will be a good
But
game.
really, 100 points, though?
Yeah.
We're going 100 points.
Well, I didn't say 100. I said 51-42. That's 93. And I think Brian was like 93 also. So.
Yeah, I can see this being a game in the 90s in terms of both teams. You don't
think they're going to take their foot off the pedal,
huh? No, and because both teams play up-tempo offensively, Memphis wants to go fast, and they want to throw the ball downfield. Western Kentucky does a great job, and that was one thing with Braun's offense that he does a great job with. They do a great job not only running the football, they like to use tempo, but they will also throw the ball down the field. They throw screens. They mix up their tempo real well. Offensively, they're very good. I think this is going to come down to what defense can get a couple turnovers, which Memphis has, against Houston was a great example. They beat Houston because they got 3 turnovers. I believe it was 2 or 3. I'm going to say 3, but that was the difference in that game because it wasn't like they were stopping Houston. And I think that's going to be a difference here. I think they'll get a few turnovers. And that's the only time anybody probably won't score in this game is with a turnover because the punters can pretty much just stay at the beach. I don't see them being used a whole lot. So
very cool. Well, they'll be glad to hear that. Okay, you talked me into it. I say 45-21. How about that? Is that better?
Whatever. We know what you really think. Go ahead.
Okay. Right. Well, next week on this show, we'll have some more exciting, more high-profile games to talk about. But we'll sign off for this week. Brian, you got some last words? Hey, thank you, Brian, for fighting through that NyQuil. You actually got perkier as this show went. You did a nice job there. Was there anything in that NyQuil?
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, there you go. So you got any cocaine-fueled philosophy for us?
Well, the only thing I can say is, for God's sake, I hope these 6-6 games are decent enough that the 10 people that are watching them will enjoy them. And I'll probably be one of the 10 for some of them. So, I just would like to see some high-scoring games. I like to see when these bowl games get high-scoring because nobody wants to watch 2 6-6 teams go, play a 3-0 game. So I'm hoping.
I like the clash of styles. It doesn't necessarily have to be high-scoring. I just like to see the immovable object versus the unstoppable force kind of thing. All right, Mike, how do you want to close the show?
I just want to see some people get hit hard and a couple fist fights during the games, and I'm good.
All right. Well, there you go. Now, there's your minimalist football fan. Right. Okay. Well, let me try that again.
What are you going to do? Are you going to screw up the ending to the show we let you host?
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to screw it up. No, I'm going to redeem myself right now.
Okay. Go ahead.
All righty then. Let's wrap up this episode for my co-host, Mike Goodpaster, and Brian Schmidt, and our very special guest, Bill Searcy. I'm Oz Davis, and you've been listening to the Grueling Truth College Football Pick'em Show.